Hey everybody, I'm Joey, and today we're gonna cook the world's best steak. So follow along this adventure as we turn up the tasty. If you've been following our channel for any length of time, you know that I consider this my meaty adventure. And I like to think of myself as a Magellan of the meat. A Columbus of carnivores. And today our travels take us to a land of truly mythical meats. I mean, this is the closest thing you're gonna find to unicorn meat in the entire world. It's raised in the stable right next door to the unicorns. What am I talking about? Wagyu beef. But this isn't just any Wagyu beef. This is next level Wagyu beef. This is the best steak in the entire world. What am I talking about? I'm talking about A5 Wagyu. Come on in, take a look at it. Look at it, would you? It's right here. And look at all that marbling. Now, you've heard me say many times on this channel, the fat is where it's at. And if that's true, nothing beats this A5 right here. For comparison purposes only, I have a more traditional Wagyu ribeye steak right over here. So we have two ribeyes. This is the A5, and this is Wagyu right here. And as you can see, this is incredibly marbled relative to a ribeye steak you'd find in the store, but nowhere near as marbled as this mythical meat right over here. And I like to think of this as like a snow beef. It's almost like someone took snow and packed it on both sides of that steak. And that looks absolutely incredible. And these steaks, both of these steaks, come to us from our friends at Double 8 Cattle. We've included a link in the description below if you want to check it out for yourselves. And I highly suggest you do, because this is just next level. This is bougie meat, baby. It's not everyday meat. It's not. It's incredibly expensive, first of all. So it's really not practical to eat this every day, but it's also incredibly rich. That fat, that marbling gives it a lot of flavor. But unlike traditional steaks where I could maybe eat a full pound ribeye by myself, this is so rich, so dense, so packed with those umami flavors that I can only eat about 3 to 4 ounces. So I've wanted to try A5 for a long time. I've had other forms of Wagyu and they're great, but never A5. And there's some questions about how to cook it, right? Do I kind of cut it into strips and try to brown all sides? Do I go in a cast iron skillet, which hint I am going to use, or do I use like a stainless steel skillet? So when it comes to preheating this, do I go medium heat? Do I go high heat? I've seen this steak cooked both ways in my research, but I think kind of one thing everyone agrees on, that you really should not be grilling this over a high heat unless you have an aftermarket product like a grill grate. It's just gonna have a lot of flare-ups from all that fat that drips down. So I wanna be able to control the heat. That's why I'm going with this cast iron skillet right here. So let's go ahead and get it seasoned. Kosher salt on both sides. Now, while I'm seasoning this, I should also say there is no oil in the cast iron skillet. This steak has more than enough fat to fully coat that pan and then some. All right, so we're about ready to drop this steak in the pan, and I have like 2 things totally stressing me out right now. First of all, this just doesn't heat evenly, but we're at about 500 degrees. It doesn't heat evenly because of the mechanism we're using this induction burner. And the other thing kind of stressing me out is the unrelated but clashing green colors here.
Where did you get that dress? It's awful, and those shoes and that.
Totally unrelated, anything we're doing with the steak, but now let's go ahead and drop the steak in. Here we go. With no further ado. Can you hear that at home? Can you hear that steak sear? Because that is the sound of tasty. So I'm gonna let this cook on this side for about 3 minutes. Flip it, cook it for about another 3 minutes until it hits that internal temperature of 130 degrees, 130, 135 degrees Fahrenheit, somewhere in that range. We're gonna remove it and then test the results. All right, guys, it's time for our first flip. Let's see how this looks. I just want to share with you, if you're looking for more information about Wagyu in general, head on over to 88cattle.com and they will tell you all about the distinctions of Wagyu beef. Well, what does that mean? Here we have A5. There's also purebred Wagyu beef, and then there is what we call like an American Wagyu, which is Wagyu crossed with another breed like Angus. Some people call it Angu. I like the name Wangus. I'm not gonna get into a lot of the details here, but simply put, this is the tastiest steak you will ever eat. And isn't that all you really need to know? Done cooking. We're gonna let it rest for 5 minutes and take a look at this crust. I mean, that looks absolutely incredible. Both sides. I mean, come on, guys. It does not get any better than that. I'll be right back. All right, guys, the steak is cooked. We got a really nice crust on it. We pulled it off at about 132 degrees, let it cool for a little bit. Because there's so much fat in this steak, it actually has more of like a off-white color even when it's cooked to the desired temperature. It's just not as pink. There's so much fat in this snow beef, this unicorn meat, which I can't wait to get in my belly. So here we go. I'll start with this piece right here, right in the middle. You can see some nice crust on that. Some good pink on the inside. Wow. Man. That is amazing. What is going on inside my mouth right now is like fireworks. It's like Mardi Gras happening inside of there. As I am chewing, and I use that word very liberally in this sense because I'm almost like crushing it with my tongue. That's all that it takes. It is so tender, but when I'm biting in, I'm actually getting bursts of juiciness with each bite. That is really incredible. Now, to kind of contrast that, one of my favorite ways to have steaks is a dry aged steak. And you really don't get a lot of moisture with that as you get that rich, beefy flavor. With this, not only do you get that rich, beefy flavor, that uppercut of umami, if you will. Now, for those of you who might not be able to place an umami flavor, it's a richness, and that's what this steak has. The best way I can explain the flavor to you guys at home, it tastes like this steak was marinated in the richest butter you've ever had and then cooked in the richest butter you've ever had. But we didn't use any butter at all, as you know. We just placed the steak right in the pan, and that was a good time. Look at all that oil that's left over just from that steak cooking. That's all the fat that rendered away as we cooked this incredible meat. Look, you gotta stop by 88 Cattle on your meat adventure and try this A5 Wagyu. Tell them I sent you. I'll see you guys next time.